When showing form, we want to establish a good 1, 2, 3 read. I have here a light source, which in this case is a telephone. And the first thing we want to make sure is that we don't get a burnout. So if we get too close to the light source, everything burns out. It becomes all a very similar value. So when I pull back, I get sort of into an ideal distance. And in this case, you see that all three sides, this side, and this side, have very similar values. As soon as I move the light source upwards, we get actually a good 1 and 3 read. So the top surface is number 1 and the side surface become number 3 reads. The ideal case scenario lies somewhere in this direction, where we get a good 1, 2 and 3 read. So what you see is we have a clear area that is the brightest, then one that's a little bit darker, and then one area that is in shade. We're going to take a look at the cast shadow here and its value. So if we introduce a gray card here, you will see that the shadow decreases in value. This is our halfway to black rule. Now if we introduce a black card, you will see that the value even drops even more. Another thing you can observe now is the amount of reflected light that bounces off the floor. So look at the value here at the side of the box. It will decrease as soon as I introduce the gray card. So the gray card comes in and it becomes darker, darker and darker. We can do the same thing with the black card, and it will even drop further in value. So the black card removed, black card moves in, becomes much, much darker surface. It actually looks close to becoming black in this case. Another way to show this reflected light is by introducing the red card. When you have the red card, you start to see a red tint in that surface area. So I'm pushing it in, you see the tint becomes darker and darker and darker. And that is really the reflected light bouncing off the card into the surface. The same is true for the front surface. So you see the front surface value reduces itself. That works as well with the gray card. Here we go. Here's the gray card. There's a reduction. Red card, I'm going to introduce the same idea. Now another thing that we can deal with is bounce cards. So what happens is a vertical surface is introduced, and I'm moving this vertical surface in from the back, and what you see is that the shadow and the shade side both became lighter. So what happens here is the light bounces into this card and bounces back into the shade side of the object. So it lightens up the shadow and the shade side. So if you ever lighten up the shadow and the shade side because of a bounced light of a vertical wall, make sure you lighten up both of them. With a red card and a red tint, very clearly visible. So the light bounces into the ground, into the back of the object, and introduces color as well into the shadow.